They say that a lunar eclipse brings about unexpected changes. Things come to a close. New things open up that you never expected. I'd buy that. It's my first night of shooting this film. But I'm not here to shoot the eclipse, the moon. That timing is a total fluke. I'm more interested in what's underneath it. I think it's the grave of the grandfather of the North End. It's a theory I have. Let's step back for some perspective. Watch your step. This is my home, Halifax, Nova Scotia. It's a beautiful city. I don't live here though. I live over here, across the harbor from the smokestacks, just up from the shipyard. We can hear the siren, sort of at the foot of the McKay Bridge. Our neighborhood is called the Pit. Come on, I heard that. I heard what you were thinking. North End, Pit. No. Here. This is why we call it the Pit. It's the best toboggan hill in the city.
Okay, are you ready?
Oh yeah! Hey, let's see who can go the farthest.
Everyone get out of the way. You want to catch up?
This is my son. He'll start school this year. Big changes coming for him. His first big step out on his own. I wonder if he knows he'll be doing it as a North
Ready,
Ender.
sweetie?
Hey. Dad's gonna do a little show here.
A little show? Okay.
Dad,
Ready?
watch out! Dad, quick! Turn the camera!
And up there
I think it will be better. I win!
was something I never knew existed until one dark and stormy night. From our front porch, if you turn around, you get what is called a harbor glimpse. It's $1 million view if you have a fetish for petrochemical storage. When my ship comes in, I'll see it coming and have time to pack. I was out enjoying our harbor glimpse one winter night, December 6th. I'll never forget that. It's the anniversary of the Halifax explosion. I thought about that horrible day, and could it ever happen again? Then I thought, just how close were we to ground zero? I went down to Emo Lane to have a better look. Now, I'm not trying to be melodramatic, but for the previous 364 days, I loved living in the North End. But this freaked me out. I pulled out some old maps. Look at this one. It's from a 1904 Canada Atlas. Here's our house. Lots of streets in the neighborhood, but I'll be honest, none of them are familiar. Then I pulled out a chart from the 40s. My neighborhood was gone, but I noticed something else up in the corner that I had never noticed before, never heard of before. There. Rockhead Prison? Rockhead? What the? Awesome band name. Imagine the t-shirts. I forgot all about the Halifax explosion. Rockhead became my new fixation. I pictured it as an Oz meets Deadwood, but with pirates and cutthroats. A full year passes, but Rockhead is still on my mind. One night, I'm working late, 4 a.m, I take a cab home. And as I'm getting out of the cab, I ask the driver, "You ever hear of Rockhead?" He turns around and says, "You want to take a trip?" For the record, neither the driver nor myself were tripping, as the footage may imply. He meant that only as a figure of speech. Though he was really talkative for 4 a.m. Just saying. This guy knows Rockhead, and as we drive around, he fires off stories and factoids, like a Gatling gun. I lived here across the street. See those trees? They were here when the prison was still around. Dandy Doherty lived here. Mamas and Papas, you know him. The warden lived over here. They called it Hungry Hill. We were the Hungry Hills. We played baseball over there. Follow the trees. You'll find the old road. I was amazed. I'd never thought to look at Rockhead from the inside out. I mean, a huge granite prison in your backyard. You're going to notice that. Everybody's going to notice that. And that was his point. As he drops me off, I'm thinking, bleep, if I'd had a camera, I could have just made a documentary. It would be so easy. And then I think, well, why not? I ask for his card, and he drives off into the night. Everyone knows that research is a big part of any documentary, so I started to do mine. What I was learning about the North End made me realize that Rockhead was just a part of it. There was a pattern. If you started walking at Africville, you wouldn't even be out of breath before you'd seen the night dump, the slaughterhouse, the infectious disease hospital. That kind of stuff can give you a reputation. And let's not forget Rockhead. About the only piece of luck North End Halifax has had seems to be that all those things survived the explosion. Now, what's bad luck for the North End is very good luck for me. My Rockhead idea meets all the criteria a producer looks for in a documentary. Good, fast, and cheap. My only regret is I should have called the cab driver before I cashed the check.
How old are you?
2.
I had no idea
I mean 4.
that he winters in Florida.
4.
Do you know what a jail is or a prison?
Put people in. Hi, I'm Mr. Nobeard. No one has been to jail.
It's only shoot day 2, but I can see already I'm going to have to find people who've been around here longer. I print up some flyers and drop them off in the neighborhood.
And not even me. I never went to jail.
You want to find out information on Rockhead Prison, probably the best place to start would be over here in the card catalog. In the card catalog, there are a couple of different places I think that I would look if I were you. In the Halifax section, I would look probably under prisons, Halifax Prisons, City Prison at Rockhead. So it does look like we have one set of plans. We also have a database on the computer. If we do a keyword search for Rockhead, I don't know that we'll find a lot, but we may very well find something. It looks like it would be on microfilm.
The prison was built in the 1850s and it looked imposing. But it was a city prison, 2 years less a day. It was a farm, Rockhead Prison Farm. In the days before the social safety net, Rockhead was the social safety net. Look at the prison reports in the newspaper. I don't know how to say this. Drunks, thieves, and whores. It's interesting, but I don't see how that's going to shape a neighborhood. I lived in the South End. I had those kind of neighbors there. I zipped through the years, which isn't hard because there isn't much written about Rockhead. And get this, the Nova Scotia Archives, 0 photographs of Rockhead. 0. If I don't find something soon, this is going to be a long 22 minutes. Look at this. The Rockhead Folly Country Club atmosphere? Doesn't sound like a hellhole. Governor Grant of the prison and his family, his extended family, all living in the prison? Grandchildren? Finally, a little bit of North End luck coming my way. The archives finds the original plans for the prison, and I get my first call on the Rockhead hotline.
I live in Samuel Princeton Manor, and I've seen your note on the board downstairs. It's a shame you weren't doing this 2 months ago, because there's a lady in here that used to live at the prison. She married one of the Grant boys. She was at the stroke store. That's why they took her into the hospital. There's nothing they can do for her. She's not well at all. But you can keep on trying.
It's like it was never...
Yeah, it's difficult to find source material, isn't it, that shows you what it actually looked like, or yeah, it's a challenging quest.
I learned a few things at the archive, but when I looked over the footage, man, if I'm going to be on camera, better get a haircut. So it's off to the local barber. And oh my God, he's got pictures of Rockhead on the wall. I've hit the mother lode. This is going to be so easy. Hi.
Time for a haircut.
Yeah, I think so. I see it. You have some pictures of Rockhead Prison on your wall.
Yes, one of my customers was kind enough to give me those. And I went over to the dollar store and bought $1 frames for each of them, and it's a nice presentation.
So you must know everything about the prison then.
Actually, I know nothing about the prison. I'm not originally from the North End. So. Elmer here might know a lot more than I would.
Doing a documentary on Rockhead Prison. Can you think of anyone I could talk to who might know?
Emma.
Emma.
Emma comes here for haircuts. I know she's talked about that. She'd be a very interesting lady to talk to.
Emma Organ. I'm quite sure that she told me she cooked up at the prison in Rockhead. A lot of people around here have been here for years and years, you know, lived their whole life up here. But I've only lived up here for, 40, 45 years or something like that.
You're a newcomer.
Yeah.
If Elmer is still a newcomer after 45 years, that tells you this is a community with roots. There's something else I learned on day 3. They respond to direct mail. I haven't even had a chance to drop off flyers in the houses, and my phone is ringing off the hook. There's 2 people in particular I really want to talk to. Marion Bragg is an anthropologist who's lived here since the 30s, and Dennis Hagen since 1928.
Yeah, this is the only picture we have of Lady Emma Road, and not too much indicated for the prison, but that's my dad there, and that's our home. So there's quite a change.
What's where your house is now?
Now it's Tim Hortons. I would say within 50 feet of where it is now.
Yeah. Do they give you a discount for having lived there?
No, no.
So do you have any pictures of the
No,
area? Or?
no, we don't have any pictures. This place was called Hungry Hill, and really it was people didn't have any money. Like, we never had a camera for 4 or 5 years living there, eh? People were generous. People would do what they could to help anybody who was in trouble.
Yeah.
This inn here was the poorest inn of any area in Halifax. I can't recall a family that had any amount of films. They just didn't have them.
What Dennis said made a lot of sense. It really helps explain why there are so few photographs of Rockhead. You forget about things like that in this age of digital everything. Hi there.
Hi.
Are you Marion?
I'm Marion.
Listen, I brought some old photographs you might be interested in.
Oh.
I think that's 1930.
1930. Well, all right, if that's 30, then our house was not built there yet. And this was all field with different paths.
What do you remember about Rockhead?
Just that it was quite a stately building. It sort of had for me anyway, it sort of had an air of mystery about it. You knew it was a prison. You didn't bother asking why they were in jail. You kind of felt sorry for them because they were fenced in.
Rockhead, they didn't treat their people bad. I mean, they trusted them, and it was a place to go when it was cold, eh? And they stayed there as long as they could, and they would steal menial things. It wasn't, as long as they got caught and they got a month in jail or whatever, it's better than being on the cold streets, eh?
I don't know if there was any reputation, anything negative or positive. It was just that the prison was there. And nobody discussed it. Maybe the crime rate was so low that nobody bothered. I don't know. It's hard to figure those things out.
At about this point, the expression, "there's never a cab around when you need one," is taking on a whole new meaning for me. But I have caught a huge break I mean, talking to the Halifax Municipal Archives, they have all the Rockhead records. Yeah, it's venereal disease treatment and that kind of stuff. But in 1965, the police department investigated the conditions at Rockhead. They were deplorable. It was basically condemned. And inside the folder was the photographic evidence. Ew. Maybe this is why people don't want to talk about it. But there's more. As soon as I had these photographs in my hand, it was like the cone of silence just broke. Remember the cook that Elmer at the barbershop talked about? There were hunger strikes, there were riots over the food. Well, guess who called me? When the newspapers were saying that life in Rockhead was like a tourist resort, it wasn't the prison cells. They were talking about the Grant family. And the email, I almost forgot the email. I spent 3 days in Rockhead as a guest in 1969. Sincerely, Leighton MacDonald. That's all it said.
As a kid growing up, Rockhead was a place not to be. All kinds of stories, like with the guards would beat you, the food was bad, and so on and so forth. But it had a very bad reputation. Nobody wanted to go to Rockhead. The prison at that time was just in the process of shutting down. There were broken windows. It was cold in there. I don't believe there was any heat, and the bunk beds were filthy, and there were very few prisoners in there at that time.
I was up to see Laddie, and I said to her, "Do you mind talking about living at Rockhead? You lived there for quite a while." She said, No. She's, I'm not going to talk about it. I said, "Matt, don't get upset." And she started to shake. And I thought, I can't bring that up. The blood pressure would go up, and I don't want her to have a stroke. I said, "Would your son talk?" No, she said, "He don't want to talk about it either." See, and I couldn't even get his name out of her. So that's a no-no. But I wanted to get you this information because I didn't want you to rely on something that's not going to happen.
Okay, this is Emma's house, Emma Organ. And Elmer at the barbershop told me she was the cook at Rockhead. And I dropped one of these off, and she gave me a call. So let's go meet Emma.
The following message has not been heard. First unheard message.
If you'd like to call me, I do remember the North End, as in the Rockhead prison. I have a few comments I could tell you about. But, Emma Organ is my name.
I was talking to a gentleman named Elmer.
Emma Fancy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he suggested I talk to you. He said you might have been a cook at the prison.
No, I was a cook I cooked at the Anglican youth camp. I was a cook, but not up at the prison. Well, we used to go over on Sunday afternoon, I think probably around once a month, I guess. And we'd go over and have service there. The choir would go and sing hymns.
So you were actually inside the prison?
Oh yeah, I was in there.
You weren't ever locked up in Rockhead?
Oh. But we didn't know Rockhead was there, actually. You know what I mean? It was in the area, but it didn't interfere with the area whatsoever. What I mean, you knew it was there, but it didn't bother anybody, what I'm trying to say. It was no big deal. People who were in Rockhead prisons there, most likely for stealing or sleeping at a park all night. What they did then, I think they would let go for the day.
The pit really never recovered from the Halifax explosion. In 1945, a bunch of prefab housing was put up to house refugees and veterans coming home from the war. By 1969, the writing was on the wall for Rockhead. Rockhead Farm, along with Africville, was the largest plot of undeveloped land on the Halifax Peninsula.
The North End has really built up. It's gone ahead in leaps and bounds. Yeah, grew up here, went to school here. Wouldn't change it. I think I'd much rather stay in the North End. Good, stable community. You didn't mind anybody else's business, but you were there if somebody needed you. But that's my personal opinion. And I know some people that would have a hang-up, you know, and of course, well, they don't want to let anyone know that they came from the North End. But that's the individual, you know. People in the North End were always sort of looked slightly down. If you came from the South End, you were the hes. You had everything. I think the North End suffered from all the negative things that we had. There was a lot of negative stigmatism living in the North End. Like the infectious disease hospital, well, that, you know, that was a necessity. But the prison was something that it was kind of degrading to the North End. And then we had the slaughterhouse, which was around. That too was degrading. They certainly didn't have that down in the South End. You had the feeling that the infectious hospital that they had up there was part of the isolation, the same as the prison was part of the isolation, like keep it away from the better part of the city.
So this is what we found, reels on the prison lands for Rockhead. We have some scenes from Africville in the 60s, 4 or 5 reels altogether. This particular item is from 1966, and it's footage gathered up of Africville. The title is called Africville, Halifax Slums, etc.
The black slave settlement of Africville was just down the hill from Rockhead. In fact, Rockhead was a major employer.
We were all in the same boat. We all thought that the worst thing in the world was to take Africville and do what they did with it. It was a community within a community.
The people in Africville were exceptional people. We accepted them the same as they accepted us. So I was the guy from Africville.
This place had a lot of problems, but I'm happy to say that I don't think racism was one of them.
I think we have one more. I think it's from 1971.
We've watched about 3 hours of footage.
Yeah, so
there it
so
is.
far this seems like the only
Wow.
actual footage of Rockhead Prison that we've been able to find in terms
Wow.
of something that actually shows the prison building itself.
It's like attending an open casket funeral.
We were told not to go, you know, to the prison. Growing up, we were fascinated by it, but you knew what you could do and what you couldn't do. But we'd go anyway. We used to watch the inmates tilling the gardens and whatnot. Sometimes they'd pull up some carrots and pass the carrots to us. We were doing the one thing we were supposed to not do, which was go up to the prison. I had a brother that was fearful. He used to call it spooky. My father especially found out that we were taking handouts, you know, the vegetables and whatnot. He put a stop to that, so you weren't allowed to go up there, period. So you'd go so far, and then you'd turn and come back home.
What kind of feelings is it bringing back?
Dark and dingy. Just a young boy in a dark and dingy place, not knowing what to expect. Were all the horror stories as true as what we were told as we were growing up?
You ever seen those?
Oh yes. Old Rockhead. Yeah, these photographs bring back some memories, that's for sure. Just feel creepy crawly in that bunk.
You see that building over there?
Yes?
That's where it was.
Cold, dark, and gray. But that was a lifetime ago. I wonder how many people lost the will to live while they're in there. Just send a shiver down my spine just thinking about that place. They complain about the prisons today. They're like 5-star hotels compared to what they used to be. At least when you're on the street, you have your freedom. You have choices. In there, you have no freedom, no choices. You do what they tell you to do. And you can only walk to the end of the hall and back. Whereas on the street, you can keep walking if you want. No. No, living under somebody's stoop would be better than living in Rockhead. Oh, life is good for me now. Yes, I have two grown sons. And I've been on the straight and narrow for quite some time now. Life is good.
Here we are again, looking out over the Bedford Basin. I think I learned what I set out to learn, and the cab driver was right. It took a while for me to get there, but, well, I learned that having a prison in your backyard does change things. Having a lot of pain in your backyard changes things. Oddly, though, I feel better about the North End. If a community is measured in longitude and latitude, well, the old North End has had a hard time of it. But from the people I met, if you measure a community in strength of character and depth of human compassion, well, I feel pretty good here. My favorite closing line in any movie is from Chinatown. It's only 3 words long. It's Chinatown, Jake. It means the situation is so muddled, so not what it seems, you'll never understand it. And sometimes, it's best just to accept that and walk away. There was one last message, by the way.
Hello, this is Marie Flynn up at Samuel Prince Manor. I do have a name for you. It's Grant, G-R-A-N-T. He lived in the prison, and he has information about the prison. Good luck. Okay, Rockhead? Bye now.
After learning what I learned, it took me a while to call the number. But I did call. I had a very nice chat with the lady who answered. She'd never heard of the Grants or Rockhead, even though she'd lived in the North End her whole life. And do you know what? For the first time in a long time, I wasn't the least bit surprised.